springtime blues real bad. Can't help but reminisce about the great years we had. I remember photo day 83 summer. Yeah, I still have the pick of me, my pops and my brother. I remember All-Star Game 5 fans strong. 59,000 fans looking on. I remember tears at the kid's last game. Stood right behind him as the anthem played. Now my homemade sign's got his autograph name on the newspaper cover, first rush with fame. I remember singing Valtteri, Valderall, 03 wild card race last hurrah. I remember Vlad 40-40 in the call they got wrong. The game against the Braves, Cliff Floyd going long. Still missing Montreal ball 6 years on. Yeah, sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Marquise Grissom is flying. He's already at second. Here he comes to third. He's been waved. The play at the plate goes ahead for a slider. Safe at home. Expos.
This one's for the kid and the cat and the hawk. And this one's for Britt, Larry, Walk, and The Rock. And this one's for El Presidente, Mo, and No Cab. And this one's
Number one with a bullet on the Montreal hit list on sports radio, TSN 690 in Montreal. For how many years now?
Number one with the number one hits.
Number one with a bullet.
Number one with a bullet?
You're too young to remember that expression?
I don't know that
music
expression.
Radio?
Wait. Okay, wait a minute.
Wait, hold on now.
Okay.
Don't embarrass me in front of a national audience.
We'll introduce Annakin Slade, who is the Montreal-based rapper and one of the biggest Expos fans, kind of a high priest among the Expos fans, the lost tribe, the dispossessed.
Thank you.
But you'd never heard the term, as a musician, you never heard the term number one with a bullet.
I've probably heard it. I just can't access it right now.
Yeah,
what exactly
it's an old music Billboard chart and top 40 radio.
Casey Kasem thing, basically.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, Casey Kasem.
I've never hit the top 40.
I've never felt older than this moment right now.
Mitch Melnick sitting in for Dave Naylor all week on TSN 1050 Toronto, TSN 690 Montreal, and TSN 2, of course, along with Bruce Arthur of the National Post. Annakin Slade is a Montreal rapper. He's a playwright. He's an actor. He is a musician, and he is a baseball fanatic who helped organize something special that happened in Toronto here at the Rogers Centre on Saturday when about 1,000 Expo fans decided to go hang out together for 5 or 6 hours. And to prove what exactly?
Prove that we exist, we're alive. I mean, there was a feeling in the air for a long time that, the franchise was deader than it's ever been. I mean, there's no sign anywhere. But the hats came back, and the style came back, and now the fans are back. We've got that sense of hope. Heartbreak, I think, has now kind of transferred over into hope. It's kind of what we've been waiting for. And today was, the way I said it, was the first day of kind of a new history. Where that history takes us, we don't know. But it certainly is a feeling that we've kind of revived something here.
Now, the hope thing is always dangerous to me.
Oh,
because,
for sure.
Because looking back at the Expos history, it's such a beautiful tragedy, right? Like it is such a beautiful loss. And it really is. Like, and I grew up in Vancouver, and you had a choice. If you lived in Vancouver, you had a choice between the Expos and the Toronto Blue Jays. And I chose the Montreal Expos, and there was no question about that. But as beautiful as that tragedy was, the hope I just find with baseball in Montreal is like that could be worse.
You bring up a good point. I mean, it's kind of like we haven't learned. However, but the idea is that if we do it this time, we do it right. I mean, it was kind of like, yeah, I know what you mean, 94. Just when they would get close to the wild card, they would get swept in a 4-game series, and that
81.
was it. Yeah, we haven't learned we've learned the hard way, and I think now it's kind of time to just think about it in a whole new way.
Let me ask you a question that I really had a lot of trouble answering. That was thrown at me this weekend as one of the members of ExposNation from Montreal. Is how do you count for the number of young fans part of ExposNation? Where are they coming from, and why?
Well, it's a good question, but I think, that's the nature of the sport. In the nature of any sport, really, it's kind of passed on, from our parents. I mean, that's how I got into it. I don't know how you guys got into baseball, but my dad brought me to the games very young age. My mom actually she worked for Charles Bronfman's company, Seagram's, so she got tickets very, very early, and really good tickets. So we got to go there and see the good days, see Carter, see Dawson, see all the Hall of Famers. And I think maybe now even more so, our parents are talking about it even more because they know now all it is a memory. There's nothing, tangible, modern that we can see. So I think it's got to be that. The kids are learning from their parents.
Bruce, I think a lot of, I don't know I used to get calls on a daily basis to go on shows out of town to explain what was going on in Montreal, and it was very frustrating because people would look at the attendance and look at the empty seats and come to the conclusion that Montrealers didn't care about Major League Baseball. Those of us who've been there, those of us who've been in the trenches, know it's a long story. Jonah Carey, actually, of ESPN, is writing the definitive history of the Montreal Expos. And Montreal baseball fans were done in by a variety of factors, none of which, in my opinion, has to do with them.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I will say about baseball in Montreal is people from the outside, unless it's happened to you, and I as a kid from Vancouver, who saw the Vancouver Grizzlies leave, it was much shorter time, but it's the same thing. You come to understand how a fan base can be killed, or can at least be wounded enough that it is no longer a workable fan base. I remember going to an Expos game, it might have been like 2002, and I remember the people who were there would bang the empty seats next to them because you could make more noise that way. You could cheer and you could bang the empty seats. So the noise was always much more than the people there, and it was such a fascinating place to see a game, but it felt like something dying. But the question for me was always, if you are going to have hope, you need a lot of money. And I don't know, is there the money that would exist that would even create the possibility of a pathway back to Montreal?
Well, it's a broad question. I mean, first you got to ask, are you kind of talking about Quebec money? Are we talking about money in the entire world? I mean,
money that would become Quebec-focused money.
I mean, we're talking about the Tampa Bay owner who is not from Tampa. He's from New York, is that correct? And he's got a team in Tampa that isn't doing very well.
And has a big stadium problem.
I mean, if he's a guy who's interested in making lots of money, then he might be looking elsewhere. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Quebec money. He just has to ensure that he's going to get the attention that he needs in Quebec to bring people into the stadium. And we have the amount of people. We have 4.5 million people in the metropolitan area. That would put us, I think, at number 11
right up there
in Major League Baseball. And then there's also the TV deals. You have two instantly. You have French and English regionally. You have a potential national deal to make it 3. And
because of the two big sports broadcast companies in this country.
Correct.
One of them, like the choice that every Vancouver kid got to make, is a Toronto Blue Jays side, and the other one is currently relatively unaffiliated.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot of ways that Montreal remains an attractive place.
As someone who was personally involved, the radio rights, the initial meeting when Jeffrey Lurie came in, he was offered nothing, no money, not a penny. That media landscape has changed dramatically. But that's part of what the problem was. The Major League Baseball was telling Lurie, you've got to increase local revenue immediately. You've got to show a sign that you may be, AAA franchise, he put it in terms of local revenue. You have to at least show a sign that you're potentially able to climb the ladder, albeit slowly. They couldn't say that. They couldn't do it. It didn't exist in Montreal. There was a car dealer named Sam Eltis from Silver Star Mercedes who had to come in at the last minute and write a 6-figure check just to get them on our radio station.
Well, and now, would there be more competition for the Montreal Expos as a thing in Montreal?
I think there'd probably be less. I mean, the Canadians are always going to be there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, are the Impact or the Alouettes? I mean, the Alouettes, I'm sure, get a good amount of TV viewings, but I think it comes down to really just being outdoors in the summertime.
Yeah.
And we all know that the key is for there to be a stadium downtown. Because
a ballpark.
A ballpark.
Not a stadium, a ballpark.
A ballpark. It's kind of impossible to think that in the middle of the core of downtown, where people can just walk out of their offices after, and instead of going to a terrace on Crescent or Saint Laurent, they can go to watch a ball game and have a beer there and sit down 80 times a year. I mean, I just can't see it failing. I just really can't.
It was your dad you mentioned that brought you and your brother Jay to baseball games. And were you a fan before you went, or the experience made you as big a fan as you became?
That's a good question. I mean, there's pictures in the video of Remember where I must be 4 or 3, and I'm on the field, for picture day with all the old greats. I mean, it's kind of like I couldn't even tell you the mental process it took for me to fall in love with the game, because it's almost like I was in love with it without even knowing, because it was so entrenched in me from an early age. But really, the 90s is kind of as I was growing up and becoming an adolescent, and the years for me, the wonder years for me, are 92, 93, and 94, which of course climaxed in tragedy.
Yeah,
but
which just prepared you for the inevitable sadness that was to come.
Right, and it's like, I just remember every year everybody saying, well, this could be the last game you ever watch at the Big O, the last time you ever see the Expos, or this is the last opening day.
The people that attended the game on Saturday, is there a fervent hope and belief that Major League Baseball will return, or was this just an opportunity to kind of get together in that environment that they miss so much?
I think it's a little of both. A lot of people told me that this is the first time they've gone to a ball game since the Expos left. I heard that from a number of people. There's definitely the hope thing, and there's this, I hope, a long-term view, because the danger is, you get some people who are saying, like, well, you think in the next 5 years? And I said, well, why do we have to put a number on it? Let's just do what we can do. And like I've said, we're not billionaires, we're not executives, we're just fans. And the only thing that we can do is come out on days like that and rock the colors and show that we haven't forgotten. And hopefully, if there's somebody out there, like the Tampa Bay owner or anybody like that, who thinks, I wonder if there's still love in Montreal for baseball, we're trying to show them that there is. It's still there. It's burning.
Basically, you are the heartbeat. Like, 'cause that's how it has to start, right? You have to start with a heartbeat and something there.
Right. You don't want to have to. An owner doesn't want to have to be in the position where he has to kind of start all over again.
Yeah.
With us, you're not really starting all over. There's so much history. When we have opening day in Montreal again, we want to put the Reigns banner back up. We want to put the Carter banner back up. We want to put the 81 pennant championship back up there. It's not like starting all over from scratch in Arizona or Tampa, So I think that's appealing to somebody who's trying to start a business.
If you want to join this community, it's ExposNation. There's a Facebook page, etc. Right?
Yeah, there's ExposNation.com. There's the Montreal Expos Facebook page. You'll know it because it has 156,000 likes right now. Us as Expos Nation members, we post everything through there.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to follow. We're going to try to do some more to keep the ball rolling in the next couple of
I would
weeks.
like to say I'm very excited for Jonah's book, because Jonah's a friend of mine, and he is as big a Montreal Expos fan probably as you are, and he's writing the definitive book of the franchise. I don't know, has he talked to you about that?
Yeah, we sat down and talked, had a little memory back and forth. Yeah.
And you're in touch with a lot of the guys from the era that you fell in love with, right? Like Martinez, etc.
Yeah, they had a reunion a couple of years ago. Smaller one. We're hoping to do a big one in the 20th anniversary next year. They're all great guys. They really like the video. I mean, Pedro himself told me that he has the video in his phone.
Oh, really?
That was before I met him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And now we're friends. Now we talk now and then. And Jonah can't even get Pedro on the phone.
Take us into the Gary Carter death of the kid was a defining moment as part of this movement and the Warren Cromartie Group, a Montreal Baseball Project. We're going to go out with the portion of the video that you put together and the tune that you put together for Gary.
Yeah, I mean, you hear the story in the song of my connection to Gary at his. We had a kind of moment together, which is explained in the song. But sometimes it takes those moments to really kind of reignite things. And the movement had started off gaining a little bit of esteem. The death of Carter, our greatest hero, I think that took it to the next level. And this was my tribute that I released very close after he died.
Annakin Slade, the moniker?
AnnakinSlade.com. For life.
If you check my Twitter, I tweeted a picture of him taking a picture of himself with me and Mitch in the background. You can find him there too.
It's called a selfie.
Oh,
see, now you got to get with the times.
See, I'm willing to be an old man when it comes to words like that.
Great to see you. Great to see you in here.
Good to see you guys.
Thanks, Annakin.
Yeah.
We'll be back with Scotty MacArthur at the Rogers Center on TSN2, TSN 1050, TSN.
And tell him all about the day 6. The night of his last game, the night kid retired. Had tickets in the bleachers, but I sat down. Needed to say bye the only way I knew how. Told him I made a sign, spent all night drawing. And all I wanted was to make sure that he saw it. The slightest acknowledgement would have been worth the while. But I was thrilled when I got a thumbs up and a smile. We stood together singing the anthem loud. close to the cameras, held my sign up proud. The next morning, Dad showed me the paper cover. There was Gary Hand on Hard and me right above him. When I told Kid the story, he smiled and asked my name and said he had that same pic at home in a frame. Today, I'm hanging in my studio office. It's signed, God bless you, the Kid.